Hello everyone and welcome to an incredible game that just happened in the final round of this year's Qatar Masters. It is the leader of the tournament, Arjun Erigaisi, who is leading the tournament with 6.5 points, and with a win in this round, of course, he will be proclaimed sole leader and the winner of the tournament. If he draws, he has great chances of winning the event, as he will probably go into tie breaks, maybe with someone else, and Nodirbek is trailing by half a point. He's on 6 points, so he will very much enjoy also winning, which will put him in contention for first place. But you know, let's just check out the game and see what happened, because this is sort of the definition of a heartbreak when it comes to chess. So let's check it out. Nodirbek has the white pieces and he opens with c4. He goes for the English opening, e6 the Agincourt defense, and knight to c3. We have d5, d4, and c6 transposing into the semi-Slav defense, the accelerated variation. E4 striking in the center, d captures, knight captures, and bishop to b4 check. We have bishop to d2, captures, sorry, not captures on d2, but rather queen captures on d4, a very exciting line. Bishop captures on b4, and the queen captures on e4 with check. We have bishop to e2, and now knight to a6. So this is the main move in the line, and Arjun plays it. He goes after the bishop. So the black queen is very active, but the black king cannot castle for the time being, as the bishop is controlling this diagonal. So bishop to d6, even allowing queen captures on g2. And now a common move here is queen to d2, but here we have bishop to f3 going after the queen right away, queen to g5, and now knight to e2. We have knight to e7 getting ready to castle, and now knight to g3. And here there is a game where queen to a5 check was played, but here we have pawn to e5, and it is now as of move 12 that we have a completely new game. So okay, Nodirbek goes queen to b3, and now getting ready to get the rook into the game also puts pressure on black's queen side. That b7 pawn could be hanging if the bishop is developed. So all in all, it's a very nice move, but again, queen to a3 might be the key move, as it will put even more pressure on the knight and on this diagonal. So castles, and now we have pawn to h4 first, attacking the black queen, queen f6, and knight to e4, attacking the queen while defending the knight and the bishop on d6. We have queen to e6, and now queenside castles. So look at this, not afraid of anything. He wants to put the rooks on the g file and go after that black king. We have rook to e8, and now rook h to g1. And here Nodirbek spent maybe 4 minutes on the clock. He had like 2 hours and 26 minutes on the clock, whereas sorry, an hour and 26 minutes on the clock, whereas Arjun is already down to 1 hour and 6 minutes. So he's trying to figure out everything that's happening here. And one way you could play it is, for example, pawn to c5. It's a very tricky move, but then you get bishop captures on e7, and after queen captures, then the knight comes to d6, and this is just very annoying, attacking the rook, and also there's a triple attack on the b7 pawn now. Maybe something to avoid. For example, if rook to d8, you will play bishop captures on b7, and now you don't have anything better than rook captures on d6, bishop captures on a8, and the white will just be better. So the only real way to try is knight to f5, not allow the capture and put pressure on that bishop on d6. So okay, we have bishop to h5, again played pretty much instantly, so you know that when you see such a move, that obviously Nodirbek is still well within his preparation. And what is the idea? I mean, is it queen to h6 check? Is that just a blunder of a piece? Obviously not, as these are very strong players, but let's just check what happens. If king to b1 and queen captures, knight to f6 check, of course the g pawn is pinned, so you will just win the black queen. However, you could play it, and it in fact is the strongest move, but you have to play knight captures on d6 now. And after rook captures on d6, going after the queen, now you play queen f4, go after the knight, and after knight to f6 check, you give up the exchange here, king f8, knight captures on e8, king captures on e8, and now if rook captures on g7, which looks like you should be able to play, there's this bishop to f5 check move. And now it's white who could be in trouble. You can't go here because of queen to c1 checkmate, so you have to block with the rook, and now knight c5. Attacks the rook, attacks the queen, defends on b7, and it's a very nice defense for black. And if rook captures on f7, which looks really awesome, then bishop captures on d3 with check, queen captures, knight captures, and now rook captures on f4. King to e7, as you've opened up a discovery, so king to e7, rook to f7 check, let's say king to e6, king to e6, rook captures on b7, and now even pawn to e4. You get this position where White will be up a pawn, but black can very much play this. Okay, you can even capture on h7, but then knight captures on f2, creates a passed pawn. Black has sufficient counterplay for him being down a pawn. However, knight to d4 was played here, and this is, well, a very interesting line. Maybe not even a suboptimal line, but a very interesting one. It's hard to even measure these positions with a standard engine, because who knows on what engine Nodirbek prepared this. So you know, the more you allow the engine to crunch the numbers, the you know, crazier variations the engine gives you. So here, okay, the queen is attacked. You also have to keep an eye on the c4 pawn. So queen to d3. Now g6. Of course, you have to play this. You do weaken the f6 square, but you have to get rid of the weaknesses on the g file. Also, you put pressure on the bishop. Pawn to f4, again played really quickly, and now pawn to c5. And now the situation is 1 hour and 16 minutes for Nodirbek and only 22 minutes for Arjun Erigaisi. So that's how much time Arjun had to spend in order to figure out everything he needs on how to get out of this position. So let's see if he was able to do it. F captures on e5, knight to b4 now, attacking the queen, and now you really have to be careful. If queen captures on c4 lands with the two knights and the queen, you're going to lose the game. So queen f1, the only move that holds, and now queen to f5, defending everything, but also allowing Nodirbek to sort of win the game, but you have to be very precise. This is the first pause the video of the game, so feel free to pause the video and try to find the absolute best move for Nodirbek while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this beauty. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook captures on d4. That's the move, and Nodirbek played it. And now there are two lines that you have to check, c captures on d4 being one of them. Okay, you could play queen captures on f1, but that will not work. And knight captures on a2 check. Now let's check why this doesn't work. The problem is that the knight gets stranded on a2, and not even because of the king. The king will move to d2, and now after c captures on d4, knight to f6 with check, king to h8, knight captures on e8, now going for knight to c7, so the other rook might hang as well, and after queen captures on f1, rook captures on f1, and now bishop to h3, going after the rook, rook to f3, and now rook captures on e8. We have rook captures on h3, g captures on h5, and now rook to a3. This is what strands the knight on a2, so that's why this is impossible. So here we have c captures on d4, and now knight to f6 with check. We have king to h8, and the bishop captures on b4. So just winning that knight on b4, rook captures on e5, and now bishop back to d1, getting the bishop out of harm's way. Bishop to e6, and now bishop to d6, attacking the rook. And here the problem is there's really not all that much you can do. Arjun's position, Nodirbek's position is just so much better, but Arjun manages to find a way how to complicate. He plays bishop captures on c4, and he attacks Arjun's queen on f1. And now there is only one way to win this. Feel free to pause the video and win the game for Arjun, for Nodirbek, while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finding this wild idea. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is not knight to g4. This is what Nodirbek played. The actual move that wins the game is bishop captures on e5. And now the point is, if queen captures on f1, then you play. Then there's really nothing happening here. Just rook captures on f1, and after bishop captures, you will play bishop to f3, and you have. Excellent compensation, and you also have the black king completely pinned in the corner. Not much to be done here, but there's even a better way to do it. After bishop captures on e5, if you go for queen captures on f1, then of course rook captures on f1, and if bishop captures on f1, there's bishop to f3. I think I just show you the line that I've already played. The idea of bishop captures on f1 is the one we have to check, and now knight to g4 check. Yeah, that's why you get out of it. And then after queen captures on e5, then comes knight captures on e5, and after, let's say, rook to c8 check, which doesn't really do anything, king to d2, and now your position will be winning. You will have a rook and a rook, knight, and bishop versus a rook and bishop. And here, most interestingly, he went for a different type of exchange, one that sort of leaves him with less material. He played knight to g4, and now look at this. Queen captures on f1, bishop captures on e5 with check, king to g8, and now rook captures on f1. We have bishop captures on f1, and now knight to f6 with check, king to g7, and now king to d2. Bishop to g2 was played, and now pawn to b4. So now, instead of having a rook, bishop, and knight versus rook and bishop, he has a bishop pair and knight versus rook and bishop. So also not terrible, but not as great. We have pawn to h6, and now bishop to b3. We have king to f8. Now comes bishop captures on d4 and king to e7. And here it's 31 minutes on the clock for Nodirbek and only 4 minutes for Arjun Erigaisi, and he has to figure out how to survive 5 more moves until he reaches time control. And here king to e3 was played. Interestingly, knight to g4 is a really wild move because black has to figure out how to defend this. If you play pawn to h5, then the f7 pawn is in trouble because you will play bishop to f6 with check, and now you will play bishop to c5 with check, and now with the bishop controlling this diagonal, the knight controlling f6, and with the bishop controlling this diagonal, you will have no way of defending that pawn. If king moves here, you'll just deliver a check, king has to move, and then the light square pawns are gonna fall. So the only way to handle knight to g4 is to play king to f8, and okay, then the game continues. Knight captures on h6 maybe, but there are better moves. But king to f8, not an easy move to spot. However, Nodirbek continued with king to e3, and now pawn to b6. We have knight to g4, and now bishop to h3. We have king to f4, and now pawn to g5 with check, h captures, and king to g3. Now, of course, you cannot capture on g5. If you capture on g5, then rook to g8 check just picks up the knight here. Even if you go after the bishop, then it's even worse. Captures, and you lose the bishop on d4, and then the rook and extra pawn will defeat the light square bishop. So here, after this h captures on g5 move, we have king to g3 by Nodirbek. And now bishop captures on g4, king captures, and now rook to d8, going after the bishop. And now you have to go for bishop to a1. It's the only way to play, otherwise you will be able to go after that bishop, combine the attack. For example, if you go bishop to b2, then you will go after the bishop with rook to d2, then you go rook to g2, and your pawn is defended. You will solidify with f6, and that's very good for black. So Nodirbek plays the only good move, and that is bishop to a1. Now we have rook to d3 and king captures on g5. We have pawn to a5, and here it seems that you will have a sufficient compensation for the draw, because even if, okay, black might have this passed pawn, doesn't really matter. You will give up one of the bishops for this pawn, the other bishop for one of the pawns on the queen side, and let's say white is left with a... you will give up your bishop for... the pawn here, and it's not going to be possible, because if the rook if you are left with a bishop and the pawn, you will not be able to escort it. For example, a dark square bishop and a pawn that ends on a light square, of course that will be a draw. So there are plenty of ways you can draw this. However, b captures on a5 was played. b5 also not really spectacular, because king d6 and the king will be able to win that pawn. So b captures on a5 was played, b captures on a5, and now bishop to c4, attacking the rook here, rook to d2, and king to f4. We have pawn to a4, now comes bishop to c3, attacking the rook, and rook to h2, going after rook to h4 check to win the bishop here. So king to f5, and now, believe it or not, it's still a dead draw. For example, rook c2, you go after the bishops, you deliver one check, and okay, then the game continues, the bishop moves, and we continue playing. However, after king to f5, total heartbreak for Arjun. He played rook to h4, and now, of course, you guys don't even need to pause the video to figure out what happened here. Of course, Nodirbek played it instantly, bishop to f6 with check, and he was in this position on move 49 that Arjun Erigaisi resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So Arjun went into the final round as the leader of the tournament. He played an exceptional tournament, and now after rook to h4, he just loses his chances of actually winning the event. And Nodirbek is now half a point ahead of everyone else, and it's going to be probably a tiebreak between him and whoever wins on some of the other boards that are still playing. I can just quickly check what's the current situation. So let me just do that real quickly. Okay, so they are still playing. Let me just check. Yeah, Yakubov and Kartikian are still playing, and it will definitely be decided there. So currently we have Abdusattorov on 7, and then a whole bunch of people on 6.5, like Narayanan, Sindarov, Nakamura, Arjun, Erigaisi also on 6.5, even after losing the final game, Parham, Maksudlu, and Gukesh. So yeah, a big heartbreak for Arjun, but, you know, props to Nodirbek for playing, you know, he had a winning position. He couldn't win it. He went for maybe a suboptimal line, but in the end, you know, the 2 bishops overpowered the rook. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you enjoyed it. Very nicely done by Nodirbek. We're going to check up on the tournament after all of the games have finished to keep you updated. And remember, today we're in some two hours time we'll be having a simultaneous exhibition. Alireza Firuja will be taking on 20 of our improvers. So if you have any questions for Alireza, join the live stream. We can also ask him whatever you guys are interested in, and also it will, you know, help us defeat him, as, you know, it might give our improvers, you know, a head start against him. So yeah, once again, hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank your mom's modern mate, Tucker Berkman, Eddie Indus, BulletChestThriller.com, and Chad Smith for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.